based on, and he looks at a few different things. He looks at how the candidates do in the primaries compared to other candidates, how wide of a margin they end up winning the primaries, and what time that's won. And then also factoring in is the last two presidents' terms they've been the same party or the opposing party, because when you have one party in power for two presidential elections in a row, it dramatically increases the odds that America switches to the other party rather than keeping the same presidential party, the same political party for three terms. And so there's just a bunch of different things that he factors in. Well, factoring in all of those issues, this guy says that Donald Trump has an 87% chance of winning. 87% chance. And this guy has been correct for the last 5 presidential campaigns, and he's only been doing this, I think, for the last 5. So I don't think he's ever been wrong since he started putting together his formula. I don't know, although you would think you could take his formula retroactively in the past and find examples of him being wrong. You know, I don't know. So this is giving some comfort and some encouragement to Donald Trump supporters. But the balancing act to this is most of the Vegas odds makers and most of the political insiders and most of the political scientists who look at the polls and tracking and expectations, most of them say that Donald Trump has at best a 20 or 30% chance of winning. So, and I'm going to level with you folks. I don't want to discourage anybody, but I'm not going to tell you anything differently now than I did in 2012, in 2008, in 2004. I mean, I'm always going to call it the way that I see it, okay? And here's the way that I see it right now. Unless something changes in the next couple of weeks, I think that the polls, for the most part, are going to be fairly accurate. I think that they're skewed a little bit in favor of Hillary Clinton, but not a lot in favor of Hillary Clinton. That's the reason I say if the election were held today, I do believe Hillary Clinton would win if it were held today. She's up in the polls in the Real Clear Politics average by about 5 to 6%. I don't think she'd win by 5 to 6%. I think if the election were held today, she'd probably win by maybe 3 or 4%. So the polls, I think, are skewed a little bit in her favor, but not as heavily as some Republicans are claiming that they are. So for that reason, I say that Donald Trump can still win, but he's got to narrow the gap more. So here's what I see happening. If it comes election day, let's say it becomes election day, and the day before election day, we'll say November 7th, okay? Let's say the Real Clear Politics average of all of the polls has Hillary Clinton up by only 2 points. Okay, if she's up by only 2 points going into election day, I think the polls will be a little bit heavily weighted toward Democrats. And so therefore, what will actually happen on election day is that Donald Trump would probably, I think, beat Hillary Clinton by about a point on election day votes cast. However, remember what I was talking about before. 40% of the votes cast will have already been cast ahead of time before election day. And of all the votes cast ahead of time before election day, my guess is Hillary Clinton will win those 40% of the votes. And the reason she's going to win those 40% of the votes is because those people are voting during a time that Hillary Clinton is up in the polls by 5 or 6 or 7%. So she's probably going to win the pre-vote, which means Donald Trump not only has to win the election day vote, but he has to win it by a good, strong couple of points, it seems, to balance it out so that he barely beats Hillary Clinton by a razor margin. It is possible. So I'm calling it that it's still advantage Hillary Clinton, but here's what you look for. Look for Donald Trump in the Real Clear Politics average. Look for him to be at least tied, if not maybe 1 or 2 points above Hillary Clinton leading into election day. If that's where Donald Trump is leading into Election Day, then I think there's a very good chance he pulls this off. And even if Hillary Clinton is tied or even just 1 point ahead in the average polls leading into Election Day, Donald Trump could still pull this off. But it would be very, very close, razor thin. It will come down to a few key handful of states. And I'll tell you right now, folks, on Election Day, here's what you watch for. Election night coverage, okay? If Hillary Clinton takes Florida, you might as well go to bed. Hillary Clinton's the president. If Hillary Clinton takes Ohio, you might as well go to bed. She's the president. If Hillary Clinton takes North Carolina, you might as well go to bed. She's the president. So any one of those three states, and those are going to be three early states that we end up seeing results from. Any one of those three states, that's it. It's done. And for that matter, I would say, well, those are pretty much the ones to watch. Okay, those are the ones to watch early on. Now, once the polls close in the eastern time zones, if Donald Trump has taken Florida and Ohio and North Carolina, he's still very much alive. Here's what you look for next. He needs to peel away one of those eastern time zone states from Hillary Clinton. Virginia, which I don't think is likely. New Hampshire. If he pulls out New Hampshire, which Hillary Clinton has a slight lead, but if he pulls out New Hampshire, that's a good sign. It's only 4 electoral votes, but it's a good sign because it suggests that maybe he will also do well in some other battleground states farther west. If Hillary Clinton takes New Hampshire, then that's a bad sign. That's a suggestion that Donald Trump is probably going to struggle in other battleground states that he needs to take. But so let's say he takes Florida, Ohio, and North Carolina and loses New Hampshire. All right, Eastern time zone polls have closed. Central time zone hasn't closed yet, so you don't know what's happening yet. But here's what you want to watch for then. Watch for Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania is a possible state. It's a light blue state that Donald Trump could steal maybe from Hillary Clinton. If, for some crazy reason, Donald Trump takes Pennsylvania, that is a very, very good sign that Donald Trump could end up winning the presidency. If he loses Pennsylvania, it doesn't mean he's out yet. You go to Michigan, see what happens. Same thing. If Donald Trump were able to eke out a win in Michigan, then that's a very good sign. Actually, if Donald Trump were to win Michigan, I would say that he would win the presidency. So watch Michigan, watch Wisconsin. From that point, you start moving to the central time zones. In the central time zones, Donald Trump must take Iowa. If he loses Iowa, then that's it. You might as well go to bed. Okay? So assuming Donald Trump takes Iowa, he's still very much alive in this thing. Then the big issue is going to be, can he take Colorado? He's got to get Colorado at that point. So these are some of the key states to watch for. As we get close to Election Day, like certainly on November 8th, I'll be going through a state-by-state breakdown of what to look for that night. But I just wanted to give you a little bit of a heads up of some of the things to kind of be thinking about and looking at some of the polls in those individual states. If Donald Trump can take Pennsylvania, if he takes Pennsylvania and Colorado, then that means he will automatically have already taken Ohio, Florida, and North Carolina. If he could take Pennsylvania and Colorado, that's it. He's the president. So it's going to be close because Hillary Clinton is leading, not by a lot, but leading in those two states by single digits, but still. So those are some of the areas that Trump needs to close the gap. All right? Anyway, we'll see what happens. All right, you're listening to The Bob Dutko Show.